Welcome, everybody, to the newest episode of Retro Nerds Rewind Podcast. I am your host, Aaron. With me, as always, is Jamal.
Yo, fellow nerds.
Sean.
Howdy, howdy.
And Cody.
That's me.
All right. Again, welcome, everybody. And I want to say a big welcome to all of our new listeners on Apple Podcasts. We are finally up on there. Apple does take a little longer than Spotify, unfortunately. But, you know, they always like to copy everybody else. So it's okay. Any Hoosers.
And we are now no longer on Apple Podcasts.
They pulled us.
Jamal, what is on the docket for today, sir?
On today's episode, we are going to watch and rewind, Recess, and specifically the episode which aired from Season 3, Episode 10 on October 21st, 2004, and that is Gus and Misdemeanors and a Science Fair to Remember.
Yes, I remember watching Recess. Let's see here. Sean, you were alive back then. Did you happen to watch Recess when it was going on?
I actually did. I was a little bit older than probably the target demographic should be, but I still watched it and enjoyed it because I was still, I was probably 18, 20, something like that at the time, but still watching cartoons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely watch Recess all the time.
What about you, Jamal? Did you happen to catch it?
No, I was, maybe like 20, so I don't think I was watching Recess unless I caught it like here and there and, didn't notice.
What year did it come out, Jamal?
2004.
You were not 20.
I was also not 18, but let's not do math right now.
Oh, maybe you were 20.
He would have been
barely turned 20-ish.
Yeah, because
you are 20.
19.
19,
like
20.
Sean said, don't do math.
Do math.
It's
not
not
do math right
important.
now. We're in recess. We're not in school.
Yes, not yet. Exactly.
Not
What about you? Did you get a chance to catch it?
Absolutely. This was my target demographic. I watched this right before I went to school that day. My dad always would make jokes about the show. Core memory because had lots of classmates that were named Emily. So we had Emily A, Emily C, Emily D, and in the show we had Ashley A, Ashley B, and Ashley C. So
And Ashley,
that's So that was a core joke that ran through our household every time we watched Recess in the morning time.
All right. Said before, I did watch this. I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that I intentionally made sure I was there. It wasn't must see for me. It was something that I enjoyed when it started. It was fun. I liked the characters that were a part of it. I had friends in school that were kind of like that, and there were other groups that we had that correlated with it. There was always the kids at the swing sets. There was always diggers. There was always all that stuff. So, which is what made the show so relatable. So. All right. Well, real quick, before we get into our synopsis and fun facts, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor, Drawn to Comics.
What's up, my nerds? So, quick break while we get back to our rewind, but I wanted to take a second here and do a little shout out for some of our sponsors. Starting with our longtime sponsor, Drawn to Comics. Drawn to Comics here in Glendale, Arizona, amazing place to get your comic books, located at 58th Avenue and Glendale. They have a discount code for our listeners that we will provide at the end of the episode, but they're a fantastic comic book shop. Whenever I go in there, I always feel like I'm a VIP, and everyone that I've talked to that goes in there feels the same way. So cannot say enough great things about them. Drawn to Comics, drawntocomics.com, 58th Avenue in Glendale, here in Arizona.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Drawn to Comics. We love having you as one of our sponsors. So, Cody.
That's me. Yes.
Why don't we hit rewind and get that synopsis?
All right. So, The bell rings and we roll immediately into the intro. We open on recess, already in progress, as Gus gathers a crowd to show off his new pet. Enter 3 obvious bully tropes. Bored, the bullies launch a rotten food rocket launcher into the crowd and lands immediately on Gus. Laughter ensues. As Gus cleans up, the bullies come over and invite Gus to come join them at their secret creek after school. Gus, very excited about the idea of a secret creek, agrees and meets up with his new friends in front of Kelso's, a general store of sorts that is advertising a new gum. Beanie McGum, mascot of Monkey. Gus's new friends mention that they need to gather some supplies and tell a moneyless Gus to go into the store and fill his pockets with the new gum. Gus does this because he is peer pressure into it and he works it out, but it's stopped by Mr. Kelso. Mr. Kelso, unaware of the shoplifting in progress, and offers Gus a free sample of the new gum because he is a good kid. The kids leave for the secret creek, only for Gus to find that it is just a dirty drainage ditch filled with sewer water.
Ugh.
Gus leaves the bullies from the guilt. He is overcome with fraught over getting caught for his evil deeds, imagining that each of his pet, his mom, anything that he looks at turns into the actual pieces of bubblegum. The next day, Gus is still fraught with guilt, has a heart-to-heart with TJ about what has happened. TJ advises that Gus should confess, and whatever punishment comes as that, it would be better than to be eaten with guilt. Gus returns to the scene of the crime and confesses to Mr. Kelso about what he has done and attempts to pay with what money that he has. Mr. Kelso forgives Gus, allows him to work off his debts, and we close with Gus is rewarded for admitting to stealing with ice cream from his victim. All is right in the world. We then pan to our next episode, since we are not done yet. Episode 2, A Science Fair to Remember. We open with Gretchen, the three-peat goat of the elementary science fair world. Drops the deets and themes of an upcoming science fair to help mankind. While the rest of the crew runs off to all make volcanoes, as well as the rest of the school, Gretchen meets little Becky Benson, a second-grade science hopeful. Gretchen agrees to help Becky with her science project and then invites her to join Gretchen in helping finish Gretchen's super secret project. After a short cut over to the crew all building their volcanoes with different themes, we watch a montage of Becky and Gretchen finishing the last few details to get Gretchen's solar power generator up and running. Gretchen puts her misplaced trust in Becky to submit her project before the deadline, only to find out that the next day that not only has Becky done a betrayal most foul by not submitting Gretchen's project, but also stole her own project too. A dejected Gretchen goes to work on her next project when the crew finds her and TJ giving a rousing speech about not giving up. This works. Gretchen goes to confront Becky, but seeing Becky struggle to explain how the generator works to the panel of judges, she decides to bail her out instead. Becky, realizing the error of her ways, gives up the first place trophy as she stole it from Gretchen. The crew's combined volcano explodes, and the auditorium, as they are crowned the winner of the science fair by default. We pan out as a new true friendship is formed between Becky and Gretchen. The Wow. The credits roll. Holy Toledo.
Good job, Cody. Jamal, I know you had some fun facts about this. Why don't you hit them with us? Us with them.
Yes.
Wow, it's contagious, Cody. It's
I
contagious.
told you, words are not wording today.
I do, in fact, have some fun facts about Recess. There is a Disney crossover no one noticed. Owl from Winnie the Pooh appears in an episode when the kids are on the schoolyard at night. Principal Prickly was based on a real person. He is supposed to look like Gene Shalit, the famous movie critic.
Yes.
Blossom
You can see that.
was on the show.
Yes.
Mayim Bellick
Bialik.
actually plays Cursed the Worst. She's featured in a few episodes, including the one where TJ gives out joke valentines. And then all the actors were actually kids. And then, unlike most other cartoons, like I said just recently, the voices were actually played by children. The only character who wasn't was Spellini, but obviously that's fine because she was perfect the way she was.
Yeah. Spinelli was great. The voice of TJ was the youngest Lawrence brother as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, was
it?
Lawrence
Yeah.
Brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ed Asner even had a cameo. There's a lot of big name cameos in this show. I just happened to look it up, and I'm just like, I was just in awe, scrolling down, like, oh my god, I can't believe he was there. She was there. He was there. She was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our fellow crit roller, Ashley Johnson, plays Gretchen. It was one
Andrew Lawrence.
of her first voiceover roles was Gretchen.
Yeah. So those were some great fun facts.
Where?
All right, so let's take a quick commercial break, and with from Championship Martial Arts. Here we go. We will be right back. Hey there, everybody. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Championship Martial Arts. Now, if you remember correctly, that's the school my family goes to, and they've got a great deal for the holidays for everybody. So right now, you can train the entire rest of the year for only $99. Includes a private lesson, your uniform, and a $75 Visa gift card for you for the holidays. That's right. So basically, you get paid, you get a gi, and you get trained for the entire rest of the year for only $99. So check them out on their website, championshipmartialartsaz.com, right here in Peoria, Arizona. And now, let's get back to the podcast. Thank you, everybody. Welcome back to Retro Nerd Rewind Podcast. Let's get into this episode. We've got some notes here on things we noticed, things we wouldn't have noticed as adults, we noticed now as kids. Because we're all kids at heart. Right. Sean, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start off with that intro. So, for those that are not as probably old as me, I watched Hogan's Heroes a lot in the reruns, and that was the intro is very Hogan's Heroes-esque. I loved how it was very quick, but the little 2 seconds that you saw of every single character very accurately summed up who that character was.
Yes.
I was, a little taken aback by Mikey's intro, and the thing that describes him was him eating a sandwich, but all right. Got more to him than just being big, guys.
Yeah,
What do you think, Eric?
But it wasn't just a sandwich, though. That sandwich was almost as tall as he was. So if you notice how big, it was a big sandwich, which gave him big belch afterwards. So,
yes.
But if you notice, he did a little excuse me thing, which showed more of his character because he's a very polite kid. So he's the poet of the group, in case you didn't know it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, and that's the thing with this show is even though they're like huge like stereotypes of their characters, there's also something to each of them that makes them somewhat different too, which I think that's what makes the show so iconic. Is you think one thing about a simple character, and then all of a sudden it just veers into reality with how unique they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was was a lot of fun because over the years that each character had multiple, and I mean multiple episodes that gave them depth and growth. It wasn't just always focused on the main leader of the group, TJ. It wasn't always focused on just a group thing. There was so many episodes that each person got to show and grow. And the two that we did, both are around specific characters that show growth.
Some episodes, like obviously the Gretchen episode was about Gretchen, but it did do a lot of just random kids that were going to this school. So it's not just about our main funky cast a lot of the times too.
Right. So, and to start off, we kind of learned this episode is going to be about Gus from the very get-go. Because Gus is the one talking, showing about his new pet, this bug. And they're like, oh, it's a bug, whatever, but no, it dances. And I'm like, what? I want to see that. It danced the hula. I'm like, come on, a bug that can dance the hula? I want to see that. Nope, we don't get to watch it.
No.
And, you go, if you look around the background, which I always tend to love to look around the background. And I love the fact that there's a misspelling just right from the get-go. Like, how did that slip through? Sean, you were saying earlier, what was it that was on there?
Cafeteria?
Yeah, instead of cafeteria.
Yeah.
Like, it's one letter. Come on.
That's close. It's pretty close. The thing that stood out to me about that opening scene is you got a group of kids sitting in a recess, and one yells out something crazy like, "Hey, look, a dancing bug." No one questions it. They just listen, and they all come flocking.
Yeah.
And I believe is like given the wrong impression that kids can just now I've got it. Randomly yell out things, and people just believe them. Like, oh, looking dancing bug. It's like, all right, I got to see this. But you're right. I kind of would like to see that. Recess creators, why didn't we get a visual of that? Like,
right.
You got it's a cartoon.
Too much animation cost.
Too much animation.
It's the mystique of, is it true, or are they just standing around a box with this ladybug is just sitting there?
Then we kind of move over to where the bullies are. They're bored. And then if you notice, there's all this graffiti on the wall over there with tons more misspellings and crazy pictures of the principal and Finster. And it was just like, I'm looking at it just laughing because I remember there was always a wall. There was always a wall. It moved each year depending as to what year it was and what school I was at. That did end up having some graffiti somewhere along the way on it in the 90s. So it was a fun little chuckle for me there. Did you guys notice that?
Yes.
Yeah.
My other thing too is that all three of those delinquent bully kids, there was the sleepy one, the one that had the unibrow, and then the other one.
The jacket.
Yes, the jacket.
Yep. So they go talk to Gus, kind of apologize, but not apologize type setup, and he's rinsing himself off with the hose.
They were doing
it. That's true. They didn't.
You're right. They didn't admit to it.
They said, "Oh, we saw it.
Yeah,
we were so sorry that happened to you."
Gus is all like, "It's nothing that a little wire brush and some kerosene won't get out." I'm like, man, it's got to be some tough chocolate milk.
Yeah, it's I can smell it through the screen. That's how well it was.
Well, in Gretchen's comment of, that's chocolate milk from like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So they're telling him about their secret creek, and he can't tell anybody because it could affect and I love this term, the creekosystem.
Creekosystem. Yeah, I think.
God.
I thought that was phenomenal. I was like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's really good.
Classic wordplay.
The classic wordplay. And then after after school now, Gus is meeting up with his friends, and they're gonna like watch a kid eat a grasshopper.
Yeah.
Which we all know that kid.
Yeah.
Or knew that type of kid. And this part stood out to me. It was TJ was like, all right, let's motor. And I'm not sure where that phrase started. It could have started here.
He says it throughout the whole. That's like his major catchphrase.
Is it?
"Let's motor."
Because I've definitely used that before in the past, like as a kid. Like,
because TJ's the main guy,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
yeah,
TJ is the skater boy.
He's the leader of the
of
group.
it.
Yeah.
And the leader of the group. So that's mainly where that came from, most likely.
Heavy.
like that popped up, and it's like, oh, I've used that before. Where, like, I've used that so many times as a kid. And then after that, Gus is meeting up with the bullies in front of this general store, and I don't know if this got like just was completely out of place to you guys as well, but it's after school, they go into what I'm guessing is a nearby convenience store that is just devoid of people. There is not even anybody behind the counter.
Yeah, he's in the
Like,
back.
I guess
With
he
a
does
security
materialize.
camera. He does have a security camera, which
That I noticed too the second time around, but it's like when Guess goes and grabs that candy and just shovels it into his backpack, like, and then suddenly Mr. Kelso appears like almost out of nowhere, like, oh no, he's had to have seen him.
Right.
He's gonna do something because he was standing literally right there when his hand reaches out and touches his shoulder. Nope.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting for the very first time Gus was stealing something. I mean, he could just grab like a quick handful and put it in his pocket, because that's literally what they told him to do, which is grab a handful, put it in your pocket, and let's go. And instead, he shovels the entire inventory of the barrel into his backpack. I'm like, dude, where did that idea come from?
yeah.
Look, Gus is an overachiever.
Yes.
And if you're not going to do something properly, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
So
big or go home.
It's
go
the
big or go home.
overthinking in the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when Kelso gives him the last piece, I'm like, oh, input guilt trip in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and literally on cue, like 5 seconds later, he's starting to get that guilt going in through himself. There, it's like, oh,
Poor guy.
trip activated.
Guilt trip activated.
That, and then it's literally goes right into the creek,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
just a garbage
Drainage
waste. Yeah, essentially sewer system. And the sleepy guy that's in the tree literally has flies around him as he's just resting. Disgusting.
Well, I don't know if you guys caught this, but the nice little juxtaposition of when Gus had the little flashback fantasy of what the secret creek would look like they're all doing different things. And then when they go to what the secret creek actually was, they're all doing those things, except a little bit
Dirty.
not as
and gross.
dirty. Yeah. A little bit more dirty and gross.
Very Tom Sawyer in the fantasy, very, grody in reality.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So Gus is like they start fighting over the candy, like this giant bag of bubblegum.
the bully tells them to get their own. I'm like, dude, it's not yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do it.
And my thought was like Gus is realizing what he's done, and he like walks away, leaving his backpack. Now I'm not
I
saying
was
that's
gonna
not
say-
realistic, because it's completely realistic for a kid to just leave their stuff there, like leave their belongings, not even think about it. But as a parent, I just like looked at that and I was like,
Well, not only that, all his homework is in there now. He doesn't
Yeah.
have any of his pencils or supplies now. You're gonna have to start all over again. Poor guy. But he is from a military family. They can afford it.
Sure.
Sure. It's appointed.
Military is known to pay their employees so well.
Very
Yes.
well.
Call Chris about that.
Yeah,
Yes.
true.
MediocreStudios.com.
Yeah. To get over to Gus's house, and if you notice, it looks a little different than every other house on the block. You go inside, and Gus is like, you know what? I can't. This guilt is getting to me. I should do my homework. Yes, homework is the answer. There's no guilt from stealing when you're doing your homework. You're just focused on that, right? Of course. Nothing else is going to happen, right?
Because the power of fractions are gonna help.
My immediate thought was like homework to get your mind off your troubles. I mean, we're nerds. Nerds gonna nerd.
And
Oh.
as he's trying to do the homework, all of the bubblegum pieces popping up, his snake of all things starting to
Yeah.
talk. I would freak out at that point too if I started hearing my snake talk to me too.
Yes, seeing that on there, seeing his blimp, his dirigible hit
Yeah.
turn into one. I'm like, if you can't tell by now that Gus is a military brat, just you're not paying attention, you know?
I guess I wasn't paying attention because as he's running out the door, there's those two MPs that are standing there, and he's like, "Oh my god, MPs!" It's like, MPs? Wouldn't they just be cops? And I was like, "What is he on a military base?" No, yes, he's on a military base because
Nope, he's not on the base. He lives on 3rd Street by the school. His dad is just the military. He's a military brat going back and forth around. So that's why it's really funny because they've got if you rewind back to the scene where they're coming in, his helm has like barbed wire around it, like it's a super defensive position in a regular neighborhood.
I did not track that at all.
He's literally on the same street as the other kids.
Yeah,
it's just all of the other kids live somewhere in that neighborhood, and they're all themed after their personalities as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you said the MPs show up and he freaks out and his dad's like, ready to bring the stuff for poker tonight, basically, and they're like, yep, we've got sandwiches, and my brain's going, I've watched too much How I Met Your Mother, because which just means something else there, and I'm like, oh, they can't say beer because it's a kids show, so
sandwiches and cards. They each had their own deck of cards.
Yes, because you need that many decks of cards to play poker. It's just 3 to 5 people. We go on to the next day, and he's hiding behind the tree. The kids call out to him. Of course, the cops just roll up, which was just like how they rolled up was crazy. But if you notice right beforehand in the background, the store behind him, Raskin Bobbins.
Yep.
Raskin
Bobbins.
Can't put a real ice cream parlor name in there just in case they watch and want to sue for things. But I'm like, would have been good product placement.
It's another WickDonald's and Munkin' Monuts.
Yes.
Your monies.
Yes.
I did notice that, like, as he's hiding out and the cops roll up on him, it was very weird. It was exactly how, if they're trying to catch him, I would expect that too. They all just like immediately pull in, not caring to park within the lines, like they're actively trying to do something, but they're there for the Officer Appreciation Day.
Yeah.
With Officer McMeow Meow.
Meow Meow.
Yeah.
The greatest.
McGruff the crime dog would have been too expensive to put in there.
Yeah. Well, if you can't use Raskin, if you have to use Raskin Bobbins, go all in on the parodies of everything. I did like how everyone, all the kids except for Mike, was very excited to see Officer McMeow Meow. Even thought that mascot was lame, and that was like that's
yes.
Like any sort of mascot for the dare or whatever we had to deal with kids.
My favorite is that we got the lore of Officer McMeow Meow from our fellow poet as well. Of course, he's the only one that knows everything about Officer McMeow Meow.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, then we move from there to TJ giving him advice about Russ. Got to change the name. Typical
Russ.
Kid thing. My friend's in trouble. How many times did we all do something like that? I'm sure I did it at least a few times growing up. I'm sure we all did somewhere along the way. But it was nice seeing it talking to a friend about it, not just a parent on those and that segment there. So
TJ convinces him to go back to the store. Once again, they go into the store, no one there. Like completely devoid.
Yeah.
This time it makes a little bit more sense because school has started and Gus is now ditching, is the way I'm tracking it, or maybe it was after school that he did it. This is the second time I did actually notice the CCTV camera in the store that was apparently just there for display purposes only. Because if you're not catching shoplifters gutting out your entire profit center on this new candy, what you doing? Like,
I mean, if all three of those other kids got caught finally and now they're no longer available, I guess it is just display to try and scare the actual shoplifters away.
Right, because I don't know if he would.
shoplifting deterrent.
Yeah, more of a deterrent, because I don't know if anyone would shoplift something enough to be worth pressing charges and the costs for that type of stuff on there for it. But yeah, then I thought that was after school because you got TJ watching through a window, and if two of them are out, that would be kind of awkward for both of them to be ditching, especially when you're trying to teach a lesson here. Well, but then TJ does
they make it sorry to interrupt, but they do make it very apparent that they love their teacher, even though the teacher isn't in this episode. Later or earlier episodes, when they actually show the teacher, she's like the positive role model for all these kids.
Yeah.
So all the kids do love actually going to school as well.
So at the end there, we get the good job, Russ. And I'm like, TJ's a great friend. He really is a great friend for all this. And then
I'll admit, that one tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. Like,
that's good.
Really quick, though, can we describe the ice cream cone was the same color as the chocolate milk that landed on him, though? It was the most disgusting looking ice cream I've ever seen.
It was double dark chocolate fudge. That's why.
It was like soy sauce flavor is the color of this ice cream. That was something.
Look, they've only got one color for food.
I guess, yeah.
So that's the end of the first half there. Second half starts now. We go in, and it's science fair time. We go through there, and for some reason, the entire school is actually cheering. I don't know about you, but whenever they announced the science fair at my school when I was elementary, it was like, ugh, now we got to do more work for this stuff. I did the same science fair project multiple years in a row and didn't actually do it the extra years, just said I did. Just thought I did a plant one where it was the plants were listening to music and seeing how they grew. And it was, the easiest, lamest thing possible. And I could just buy a new plant the following year and then change the paperwork on it and skew my own results. So
it was shows like this and scenes like these, episodes like this, that made me think science fairs were way cooler than they actually were. And I just got the short end of the stick on it. Because this one had like a theme and like it was they're big enough that it needed a theme. Everyone loved it. Everyone's cheering in any sort of like school announcement. So I always thought they were going to be bigger and cooler than they were. And as you pointed out, they were not.
No, not at all.
Immediately after the presentation for the science fair, they go down, they're all talking together. And the line that came up is whoopadelic.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if that was a catchphrase, but I was like, whoopadelic. They can't all be winners.
No,
it's not.
It was definitely a 90s thing of trying to make things stick during
it was they
sure.
tried something. They tried something for sure.
They throw that old food against the wall to see if it would stick. So
launch it into the crowd to see if it'll land on something.
Yeah.
We get Gretchen meeting Becky. They then kind of connect and Becky's fangirling over Gretchen. They go to the diner for sodas or whatever. And we get the look at Becky's science project, which I thought at first was a laser because it was. It looked like
evil villain laser. I mean, foreshadowing.
Yeah,
foreshadowing this little child's future.
They're like, oh, the wire doesn't connect here. It's like, yeah, it's a laser. So I wrote down in my notes like evil. And it was like, no, it's a hand crank. I was like, oh, that makes more sense.
It's a hand crank battery for her Princess Sparkle tiara, which she couldn't afford batteries for, but she had enough supplies to make this hand crank battery from?
I don't know if it was the fact that she couldn't afford batteries. I think it was an invention
No.
to help mankind for people that couldn't. Oh wait, no, she said I
She
can't afford
specifically
batteries.
said I could not afford batteries. Thank you for helping me with my project.
I thought it was for kids that couldn't afford batteries, so they could look
That's-
like a princess.
Maybe.
So I think
I
he was
could have sworn
developed it
she
for
said-
that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's for if you can't afford batteries, get yourself a hand crank.
Yes.
Like,
this is what you want for Christmas. This nice
this
hand
is what
crank
you want for
thing.
Christmas.
So you can put the TR on, hold it down, and just crank and spin it while you're doing
Crank
things.
it so it can
You know,
light
some-
up.
Of course, you know that. Never mind. Not going to go there. So
Yeah. Shortly after, and they're done, and they're gonna go, and Becky's now gonna help Gretchen with her project, or Gretchen's gonna allow Becky to help her with a project, and you see that little evil look on her face. But you get I gotta call it out because I love when people do this. To science, to
Yes.
science,
to
The
science.
science.
to
Then,
science.
New Girl is giving the evil eyes. Look out!
Yeah,
Poor Gretchen, too. She's just all excited in her own world.
Then we head on over to TJ and the crew with their volcanoes. Each one's different
everybody-
themed based upon their personalities, which is hilarious.
yeah, it was
You know?
very funny.
From
Every
Gus's
science
with
fair had
with
volcanoes.
military and Mikey's poetic one, to then you get Mount Nightmare, the battery powered volcano. I'm like, That's kinda
not
cool.
just gonna explode with just your typical baking soda and vinegar. How boring. Also, this episode of Recess is why my school wasn't allowed to do volcanoes anymore. So, thank you, Recess. That's all I have to say about that. So,
I
our
won't say
science
something
fair was
inappropriate, so
Yeah.
We cut over back to
There was no good explosions
Becky.
there, sorry.
no, explosions. We cut back over to Becky and Gretchen, and we go into a montage, and montages happen. I blame South Park for this. I cannot not do it and just sing montage going into a montage every time.
yep.
which the only help she needed was to put the single piece on top of her whole machine and then press a couple buttons and then
Yeah.
she was
And then
done.
press a couple.
She-
I
she's
mean,
the ratchet
the
a
thing
little
was
bit.
mostly
Yeah, that's true.
the thing was mostly put together. So I'm just looking at it like this huge giant device, which is not going to look very mobile.
No.
That's what I was gonna say. Is how is she getting this to school?
Yeah, well, it's already at the school. Remember, because her place is in the janitor's shed. She has
The
her
janitor's
own.
shed.
that's
She
right.
took over the janitor's shed, so it's
That's
there.
right.
But
Which-
still, I mean, that thing be hundreds of pounds. There ain't
Not
no
only
way
that, There's
Gretchen.
two of them now
Right.
too,
No,
because Becky. Oh no, Becky
No, she-
took that one.
Yeah, she
That's
took it.
right.
How the hell did she move that thing? I mean, it's like you need a multiple adults. There ain't no way Gretchen nor Becky be able to move that crap on her own. I'm sorry. That's way too heavy. I mean, the thing is taller than them. It weighs hundreds of pounds. They barely weigh 60 pounds. I mean, if they could do push-ups, I'd be surprised. Much less move that thing. So
And all of this montage, all of this work they're doing, I guess, because I remember thinking, like, this is happening in like less than a span of a half a day.
Yeah.
'Cause
She didn't really
after
need the help.
school Before, no, didn't. It was a pity. Come help me.
Yep.
But the other thing I was thinking is like, okay, they're doing this in the janitor's shed, which I kind of get. You know, Gretchen's a very good kid, so the janitor would let them do their projects in there. Sure, but it's got a retractable roof.
Yeah.
Did Gretchen build that at some point?
Had to have.
Probably.
had
Yeah.
to have.
Probably, right? And like and then one thing I was confused about is so Becky obviously got that evil look on her face, found Gretchen's application and does not turn it in or burns it up or whatever. So I guess we did just declare that Gretchen or Becky out and right stole Gretchen's
Correct.
project. and didn't build a new one from scratch.
No,
Nope,
she
didn't
took
believe
it.
it.
That's what I thought. At
It would have
first
taken
was-
way too long, and
Yeah.
notes was only on what she was teaching her. She didn't show her how to build the whole thing because it was mostly
That's
done.
true.
So, but then you go to the next morning, and Gretchen gets there early, finds out she never had her application turned in, and says, "You should see what he turned in. It would have given you a run for your money." And I'm like, oh, "Becky, what?" On this.
Well, let's not also mention every single other kid
Yeah.
outside of our group also did volcanoes and also put their own personalities. Like the digger kids
Yep.
came out of the volcano in order to put the stuff into the volcano.
And the Tattletale kid, what's his name? Russell? Russ. He had his volcano, which was the recess.
The recess
Randall.
kid. Randall.
The recess kids being covered with the volcano goop, which I thought I found that amusing. But
Yeah.
I caught that as well. Like everyone did volcanoes.
My
different
favorite
theme.
was also Ashley A. Hers was just all pink and flowers as well.
It almost looked like a cake. It almost looked like a cake volcano.
Yeah.
So
my thought process in seeing all these volcanoes is, well, no wonder Gretchen went.
yeah, seriously.
She just went like she could bring in a potato battery and win as long as it's not a volcano. Like that three-peat goat, Gretchen being the three-peat goat of the science fair world, is looking a little less impressive now.
Yes. So we go. Gretchen runs out and is upset. TJ giving the classic pep talk, getting so much history wrong. I'm just laughing. It was so
me too.
funny.
He tried.
It was so entertaining.
Yeah.
I also go ahead.
The Germans were shot down the kite of Benjamin Franklin. That's how that happened.
Yes.
So, and then he goes back to the science fair after she decides, yes, I'm going to go tell her off and turn her in. We get Becky literally repeating word for
really
word.
Quick though, can we also mention she was going to build her own little Becky? I'm loyal, and she puts down the head.
Yeah, got to build a robot friend because your other friends aren't real friends, right? Apparently,
No,
just because they don't know
no
science, you have to have that one like science. So yes, we go in. Becky's repeating word for word what Gretchen said about it, down to the folk music joke, and I'm like, $10 says she doesn't understand a single word she's saying on there.
And you apparently would have won that bet because that's where she gets hung up.
Yep.
How does it work?
Gretchen then sees the sign when she's about to turn her in. When they ask a simple question of how does it work, decides to be the bigger person and not turn her in. And then we get the classic gasp from the crew, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. Come on, guys.
And she
The
has
volcanoes
the most
go off. Oh, go ahead.
Well, she also has the most Gretchen response too. I'm not going to turn you in. I'm just going to be in the crowd collecting data.
Right.
Collecting. That was a good line.
Yep.
That was a very good Gretchen line, I thought.
So all the volcanoes finally go off from the ring of fire that TJ's crew put together, which allows them to win. And then Becky and Gretchen make up in a totally gross way. It almost looked like they were about to eat that stuff that came off, and I'm like, ugh. I did think it was funny that Principal Prickly basically says it in disparagingly, like, okay, Detweiler and his friends win. All right, fine. Yours was different, So,
I suppose.
Right. And then roll credits.
Full credits.
Right, so that was the episode there, both of them combined. Right back after this final word from one of our sponsors, Mediocre Studios.
What's up, my nerds? Sean here from Retro Nerds Rewind podcast. As you know, we'll get back to the podcast in just a second, but I wanted to take a second to mention our sponsor, Mediocre Studios. Now, don't let the name fool you. These guys are amazing. They are a veteran-founded small business specializing in 3D printing miniatures and tabletop terrain pieces. Yes, that's right. If you want your miniatures, tabletop terrain, or even that stuff painted, they can do all that stuff for you. If you want to print it out yourself, they've got the hookup for you there too. They are the official US distributor for the Uniformation 3D resin printers and are offering $80 off of the GK2 if you use our code RETRO. Those painting services, miniatures, and terrain pieces I mentioned, they'll hook you up there as well with 5% off if you use our code word REWIND. They are adding new products all the time from top modelers including Immaterium God Miniatures, Den of Imagination, DMG Minis, not to mention several other local talented artists. That's mediocre-studios.com. Go check them out. See what I'm talking about. These guys are incredible. And there's a reason that we love them so much. And you will too. All right. Enough of me ranting. Let's get back to the podcast. I love to know what the hell is happening in this episode.
And we are back. All right, guys, let's get some final thoughts and ratings going on here. You know, didn't hear a lot from you, Jamal. Why don't you start off here?
I will give it 4 bubblegums out of 10 bubblegums.
Okay, so it seems like you weren't all that impressed with the show. Tell us what you thought.
I mean, obviously, again, this wasn't my demographic. Age range wasn't my thing. To each his own. I mean, Cody this was his era, as you all could tell from this episode. So I don't know. Like I said, I wouldn't watch it again. I don't know. It's just, but I get it. It was supposed to, help kids and do its thing in that time frame.
Okay. What do you think, Sean?
Well, I admit in both episodes it tugged on my heartstrings a little bit to those moral lessons being people doing the right thing. It hit me a little bit, but even that said, I gotta say it was kind of like I will watch this in the background kind of TV. And I give it, I'll give it a 6 out of 10 recess bells.
Okay. What about you, Cody? This is your show. What'd you think?
Just taking the nostalgia glasses off and everything. Specifically, this episode is not the strongest episode, in my opinion. There's more iconic ones out there. I give this a solid 7.5 rotten chocolate milk rocket launchers out of 10. There's definitely better episodes out there that are much more iconic. We only got to see 2 of our very, heartwarming characters, which yep. I love both of these characters. I love all of the characters in this show. So I definitely think that I would love to watch more to see how I feel about it, because it is such a iconic show from my era. But I could see what you're saying, Sean and Jay. That is definitely a show that you put on the background just for sound.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it. But you know what? Let me give out that Drawn to Comics code. Our code this week is R&R Pod. That's right. The code for this episode is R&R Pod. So when you head into Drawn to Comics this week or next week, feel free to give them that code to get 10% off your total purchase of non-consignment and non-specially marked items. Again, R&R Pod. Love you guys. Thank you very much, Drawn to Comics. So yes, like I said, I really enjoyed the episodes. I would say I agree with Cody. About 7.5 out of 10 on there. I won't assign a item to it. I'll let you guys decide. All the good ones already. Oh, dodgeballs. There you go. 7.5 dodgeballs out of 10.
There you go.
And flare blue ribbons.
But hashtag Officer McMeow.
There you go.
Get that trending, folks.
Baskin Bobbins. So
Baskin Bobbins.
7 Ashleys with different letters as their last name.
So it's not a show I go out of my way to watch. It would be one that if I I didn't have anything else I was watching at the time, and I wanted something funny and silly that I could have in the background while I'm doing something else, I probably would put it on. There are other great episodes of this series, like Cody said. The thing is the science fair episode is one of the top 10 ones out there on lots of fans lists. So it is a very highly regarded episode in their specific fandom, because before I recommend any episodes to all of you guys for us to watch, I do some digging and see what the fans of the big fans of the series really love. So 7.5 dodgeballs out of 10 for me. It was a lot of fun to watch and sit back. Obviously, I have more of a connection because I know more of the characters a little more than some of you guys. So I enjoyed it. All right. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone for listening. This is another fun episode to come back and watch show of. I've had listeners in the past give us suggestions, so please like, subscribe, and in the comments wherever you're listening, we are watching. You can also shoot us a message on Instagram or even in the comments on YouTube as to what show you would like us to see, something from your childhood specifically that tugs at your heartstrings, a show with a specific episode or just a show in general that you would love for us to go through and tell you what we think without the nostalgia glasses on. So it'll be a lot of fun to do that. We love hearing from our listeners. So please like, subscribe, comment, give us suggestions of what you'd like us to go back and watch. All right. Jamal, why don't you take us out, sir?
All right, gents and ladies, until next time when we hit rewind. See ya.
Have a
Bye,
good week.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.